Welcome back. The umbrella program to support the development of national biodiversity finance plans, formerly known as the Biodiversity Finance Initiative, or BioFin, aims to support countries in developing robust business cases for increased investment in the sustainable management sector, is hosting a two-day stakeholder consultation workshop on policy as well as institutional review. Joining us this evening is Bernadette Chivute, a sustainable finance specialist, to talk to us about this initiative. Bernadette, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Nina. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. To start with, let's look at the objectives, Bernadette, the core objectives of the Biodiversity Finance Initiative and how it aims to support sustainable development.
All right, thank you. So this initiative came about the Convention of Biological Diversity at the 11th COP. They really wanted a response to the global biodiversity loss. They wanted a way in which we could divert more funding for biodiversity, and this is how this initiative came about. It started in 2012. It's funded by the European Union and developed by UNDP. So currently we are 133 countries that are partaking in this initiative, so it's really a global initiative. In terms of the objectives, it's really to help countries like Namibia identify your funding gaps when it comes to biodiversity, raise more money for biodiversity, and also just gather interest and all hands on deck when it comes to preserving and maintaining our biological diversity.
Bernadette, how does the initiative align with global biodiversity frameworks? All
right. So the Global Biodiversity Framework is one of the frameworks under the convention, right? Namibia is a signatory to this convention. They currently have 23 targets that all countries that have signed up have to meet by 2030 that speak to biodiversity conservation in general. So specifically, there are 5 targets that speak to finances. And then we have one called Target 19 that has a specific goal of raising about 200 billion per year for biodiversity. So our role is really to meet government in terms of the strategies that they have under the NBSUP in raising and meeting those targets, those global biodiversity targets.
2030 is 5 years away.
Yep.
Are we on track in achieving these targets?
I mean, Namibia is very fortunate that we have started already with some of these initiatives. It's not like we are starting from scratch, even though we joined the initiative now. This is primarily because we have placed so much emphasis on conservation. We have quite a huge number of our countries under protected areas. We have nature reserves, tourism is very key, so we already have that realization that biodiversity in nature is important for our economy, so we are on the right track.
Fantastic. Talk to us about how the initiative balances economic development goals as well as the need for, environmental preservation.
All right, so if I can just take a step back and just explain that biodiversity is really about life on Earth, right? It speaks to the variety of animals, plants, species, everything that we have on Earth.
Right.
And each of these organisms work together in an ecosystem. And what we need to realize is that biodiversity supports life on Earth, and without biodiversity, there really is no life on Earth. Even though we have to develop with nature, what we are aiming for through this initiative is a bio-positive economy, where we can develop positively in harmony with nature. If you think of it, when it comes to economic development, there really is no development without biodiversity. If you just think of our key sectors such as fisheries, agriculture, forestry, these are all dependent, and tourism, these are all dependent on biodiversity, right? So if the biodiversity is not thriving, these economies will not thrive. So we must develop, but how do we develop then in harmony with nature?
Also, how does technology, and innovation, what roles do they play in advancing, the initiative's objectives?
All right, so technology is here to stay and we are fully embracing it. We can't run away from it. And it's really technology that's making it possible for us to implement this project or this program in 133 countries. You can imagine the chaos. Everybody running around trying to do something. So we rely really on social media to get the message across, to spread awareness on what we are doing. We also have like a very dedicated website, biofin.org, where we have all sorts of information, research, self-paced courses for those who want to do studies on the subject further. There's also a resource in terms of, for those who are looking for funding, it's called the BioFin Fire. It has over 300 listed, institutions that provide funding for biodiversity. You go in there and you can put in your requirements, and it will throw out a list of possible donors that you can reach out to. So in terms of some other countries, some countries are also implementing technology-based financial solutions. They've created, for example, apps in Asia that are also as a solution to biodiversity financing. So when you subscribe, download, this money is then reserved for biodiversity initiatives. Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned in the beginning, you hosted a 2-day investment, a stakeholder consultation workshop. So talk to us about what transpired and, of course, what the key takeaways were from this workshop. All
right. So with the BioFin program, we are following a 5-step methodology to getting to the financial solutions, identifying what exactly the gap is. So the first step is what we are calling the policy institutional review, where you are now scanning the policy landscape of Namibia. What are those current policies that we have? Are they for biodiversity? Are they hindering biodiversity? Maybe they are silent on biodiversity. We have emerging sectors, oil, gas, green hydrogen. What is the stance when it comes to biodiversity on those ones? So that was the aim of really the dialogue, to see what are we missing, what do we need to do better. So in terms of the takeaway, it's really for us to reflect, like in terms of what amendments do we need to make? Are there new regulations, policies that need to come on board just for us to protect biodiversity, and also to raise the critical finances required for financing for biodiversity.
And what would you say, Bernadette, are the challenges that the initiative faces, in scaling up biodiversity finance, and how can these challenges, of course, be addressed at the end of the day?
I mean, of course, with the challenge currently now is that there is not enough money for biodiversity financing. This is related to the fact that we really don't value biodiversity. So what we want to do through the initiative is to raise the value, understanding people what the importance of what biodiversity is, what that value is, and how do you account for it. So the last studies that we did that were done in terms of valuing biodiversity were done way back in 2017. And these, the findings were that the value that we get from nature was around 13 billion Namibian dollars back then. And in terms of the investment that we as a country were putting in was just around 1 billion. So you can already see the deficit. So this is really where we want to get to. How do we close that gap, making people realize, not just people, but even just businesses realize really what is the value of biodiversity and why must we protect biodiversity.
In closing, what are the future aspirations for, Biodiversity Finance Initiative?
I mean, like I said, we really want, the country to develop. We want to make use of our natural resources. Benefication is a great, one of the topics that was at yesterday's SONA. But how do we do that in harmony with nature? That's really the aim of the project. That's where we want to get to. Prosperous societies in harmony with nature.
Bernadette, we appreciate your time this evening. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
When we come back, our conversations do continue. Do stay with us.